Ode to My Father is a film about a character named Yoon Je-kyoon, and the film follows his life story starting from the Hungnam evacuation in December 1950 to his present-day life as an elderly man in the 2010s. The film was directed by Yoon Je-kyoon and stars Jung-min as the main character Yoon Je-kyoon, Kim Yunjin as Hanja, who is Je-kyoon's future wife and lifelong partner, and Oh Dal-soo as Dal-gu, who is Je-kyoon's best friend. The film was released in South Korea on December 17, 2014, and it was a commercial success, remaining at the #1 spot for 5 consecutive weeks. By mid-January 2015, the film received over 10 million ticket sales, and in its 8th week after release, it became the second highest grossing film of all time in South Korean cinema. At the time of recording this video in June 2021, the film currently sits as the 4th highest grossing film in South Korea with over 14.2 million tickets sold. Despite receiving mixed reviews from critics, the film received many awards, which are listed on the screen. Although Je-kyoon is a fictional character, his life took place during real events in history, and director Yoon even used the real names of his parents, Je-kyoon and Hanja, as the names of the characters in his film. Director Yoon wanted to create a film that, quote, could be watched together by 3 generations, end quote, and he just wanted to, quote, talk about his father and his father's generation who sacrificed themselves for their children, end quote. This tribute to his father is a clear theme in the film, and it is made apparent in the scene where Je-kyoon writes to his wife while in Vietnam, and he confesses that he's relieved that their generation experienced hardship in this tumultuous era so that their kids don't have to. The film starts out with an elderly Je-kyoon who reminisces his early life at the Hungnam evacuation in December 1950. According to history, this event, also known as the Miracle of Christmas, was a remarkable evacuation of 100,000 North Korean refugees who were trying to escape from the incoming Chinese forces. This evacuation took place during the Korean War and followed the difficult Battle of Chosin during the biting cold weather of the winter season. With the never-ending Chinese troops closing in on North Korean land, the forces in the United Nations made the decision to retreat by ship to Busan in South Korea. One ship in particular that was featured in the film, the SS Meredith Victory, was designed to carry only 60 passengers at most, but ended up successfully transporting 14,000 refugees, setting a Guinness World Record. In the film, Je-kyoon, his mother, and 2 of his siblings boarded the ship and headed for Busan, but was forced to leave behind his father and his younger sister Mak-soon, who were separated from them among the chaos. Fearing that he wouldn't make it onto the ship, Je-kyoon's father appointed Je-kyoon as the head of the family. From then on, he took on the responsibility and became the breadwinner of the family, oftentimes taking on very dangerous jobs. Although the Korean War ended in 1953, Je-kyoon and his family were unable to return to their hometown in North Korea, as the war ended in a stalemate. So the Korean Armistice Agreement was signed, and that created the demilitarized zone to separate North and South Korea. 10 years later, in 1963, Je-kyoon and his best friend Dal-gu, who he met shortly after arriving in Busan, take up a job opportunity in Germany as miners. This event refers to migrant workers, who were called the Gastarbeiter, who moved to West Germany between 1955 and 1973, seeking job opportunities as part of a formal guest worker program. Je-kyoon applies to work there in order to pay for his brother's tuition at the Seoul National University. The work is very dangerous, and Je-kyoon and Dal-gu nearly die after a gas leak that causes the mine shaft to collapse. In Germany, Je-kyoon also meets his future wife Hanja, who is studying as a nurse. When they both eventually return to South Korea, they get married, but Je-kyoon and Dal-gu only stay in South Korea for a few years, as they leave for Vietnam in the 1970s as technicians working for the Vietnam War. This time, Je-kyoon wants to raise money for his younger sister's dream wedding. Although Je-kyoon assures Hanja that he will stay away from the actual combat, he encounters a brawl while helping Vietnamese villagers escape from the Viet Cong, who were backed by communist North Vietnam forces. He ends up getting shot in the leg, but he does survive and he returns to South Korea. Life goes on like normal for Je-kyoon, but in 1983, the Korean Broadcasting System, or KBS, launched a program called Finding Dispersed Families, which aired from June 30th to November 14th of that year. This program aimed to reunite families who were separated as a result of the Cold and Korean Wars. A total of 100,952 applications were submitted, and a little over half were presented on TV. As a result, 10,189 families were reunited, and the records from this program were archived digitally, which now can be accessed with a quick search on any Korean portal site. This program received global recognition, and KBS became the first broadcasting company to receive the Gold Mercury International Ad Honorem Award for its humanitarian efforts. In the film, through this program, Je-kyoon is able to reunite with his long-lost sister Mak-soon, who was adopted by a U.S. family after the Hungnam evacuation. She then visits South Korea to meet with the rest of the family in an emotional reunion, but a year later, their mother passes away from old age. In the present day, an elderly Toksu wistfully admits to Young-je that his father is probably too old to be alive, and the film concludes, without the father-son reunion ever happening. Overall, I thought this was a great film, and I learned a lot about the events during and following the Korean War, such as the miracle of the Hungnam evacuation, the role of Koreans in the Vietnam War, and also the large-scale KBS initiative to reunite separated families. According to movie reviews, Toksu's character serves as a metaphor for his entire generation, as his generation was shipped off to various places during the Korean War, aided in the Vietnam War, and much more. Watching Toksu's story enables those from his generation to relive their youth and reminisce their bittersweet memories. And for the younger generation, this film teaches them about how life was like in Korea during its modern history and its growth from a poor, war-torn country to one with a burgeoning economy. In addition, the younger generation can appreciate the difficulties that their elders went through. Given the commercial success of the film, I would say director Yoon certainly achieved his goal of creating an emotional film that could be watched by multiple generations, and I highly recommend any audience to watch this film. Thank you for watching.